I know we still got a Sunday coming, but the Lord told me that today was the last day of this series and that we're going to do something different next Sunday, so just hang in there with me. But we've been talking about a series called You Don't Complete Me. You Don't Complete Me. And I'm hoping that as we have grown through this series together and we're just kind of growing in our knowledge of the Lord, that we're finding that truly you don't complete me and I don't complete you. And your spouse does not complete you. Your children do not complete you, and that you will never find completion or perfection in any of those things. But you know where you will find completion and perfection? In Jesus. Because He is perfect. He is the one who will never leave you or forsake you today. And so I'm thankful for that. And we're going to jump into the Word together today. And so if you have your Bibles, you can turn with me. You can put your thumb over in 2 Chronicles chapter 16. We're going to jump in there here in just a second. We're going to start in the book of Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, beginning in verse 19. It says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart is also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 9. It says, "For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. You have done a foolish thing, and from now on you will be at war." A little background this morning. You know, we talked for the past few weeks, we've been talking about some serious things, and we've been talking about relationships. We're talking specifically about marriages, and we've talked about being single in that and how it can apply to all of us here today. But, you know, marriage is under attack. Last week I shared with you statistics that 50 out of 100 marriages end in divorce. That's 50%. That 67% of second marriages end in divorce. It's a scary world. Why even try to get married? And what we see is that becomes the normal. That people don't even bother, because why go through all the contractual stuff if you're not really sure it's going to last anyways? But it's not the way that God ordained it to be. Marriage is more, let me say it this way. Marriage is not a contract. Marriage is a covenant. And a lot of times we want to treat marriage as a contract. You know, I do my part, you do your part, and as long as we're both doing our parts, the contract's good. But if one of us break our side, then contract's over. We rip it up. That's not the way it goes. Marriage is not a contract. It is a covenant that we enter in, not with just each other. Even if somebody doesn't acknowledge that God's a part of that covenant, can I tell you that if you participate in marriage, you participate in something that God ordained. And He set apart and made it holy. And so when you do it, whether you realize it or not, you are choosing to participate in a covenant between you and your spouse and Him. And we wonder why they struggle sometimes. It's because sometimes we got the you and the spouse part together. Like we're like, well, I get that. I'm in covenant with them, but we try to leave him out of the covenant, and it doesn't work that way. We have to have him in the covenant because he is a part of the agreement. He established it. He ordained it. And he is what has set that apart and called it holy. It's holy matrimony. And it bothers me because, listen, there are some things that people hold really holy. Man, I just ain't even in notes this morning. There's some things we hold really holy. We realize that it is wrong to be prejudiced against somebody because of the color of their skin. God forbid we say things about people of other colors of their skin or any of those things. We recognize that that's a holy thing because they didn't have nothing to do with that. That was God. It was holy. Who are we to say anything about that? There are other things that we're not supposed to, we recognize that we're not supposed to say about. Yet when it comes to the things of God, we choose to say, you know what? Marriage can be whatever it wants to be. Between whoever it needs to be. I mean, the world has come against so many things. It's funny how we can get all in on one thing, yet over here we go, listen, marriage is not holy. Let me tell you, just like those other things that are holy and we're not to touch them because they're God things, people can't pick all those things. That you don't get to pick. I can't wake up tomorrow and say I want to be black. I feel like there's some soul in here somewhere when I sing. But my skin tells me otherwise. Those freckles, it tells me otherwise. And I can't get up tomorrow and choose to be a woman. Sorry, I went there. I can't. Because they're holy. God made me to be who I am. But not only that, marriage is holy. He made it to be what he designed it to be. And as long as it's inside of the place that he put it, it's holy. It's set apart. It's designed for the way he did. And he said, I made marriage to be between one man and one woman. That's it. There's no other thing and anything outside of that. I'm not picking on one thing. Sometimes we want to get with pastors because they'll hammer on the one thing. Let me tell you, it's not just the one. Anything else outside of that is sin. And it destroys us. But I thought God loved me. Oh, he does. But he will love us even in hell because we make the choice to separate ourselves from him. We need to recognize the holiness that God has called marriage to be. Stop trying to kick him out of it, but bring him more into it. Now, I know I've got to set this background here just a little bit. This verse in 2 Chronicles comes from the story of King Asa of Judah. The tribe of Judah was responsible. That's where God chose to raise kings from. Kind of like the Levites were the priests. This is where the kings came from. And Asa had come from this house. And Asa had a history of trusting in God. It's funny, we sang that song this morning. I didn't even plan that. He had a history of trusting in God and doing the things that God asked him to do and avoiding idolatry. Yet somewhere toward the end of his life, for one reason or another, he began to fear the wicked king Baasha of the northern kingdom. And fear began to deceive his heart. And Israel was this place, and it had become completely wicked and filled with idol worshiping. And Asa feared the invasion and loss of his kingdom because of the kingdoms that were around him and what they were doing, and they weren't listening to God, and they weren't doing the things they were supposed to be doing. And so he began to fear the loss of his kingdom. So you know what he does? He took all of the treasures of the temple. And he says, I'm going to align myself with King Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, which is Syria. And he basically traded the treasures of God's temple for protection from an idol-worshiping king. Instead of relying on God, he began to rely on the Syrians for his protection. One time, this guy loved God with all his heart and was very passionate about the things of God, and yet he finds himself later in life turning into this person who says, I would rather trade the things of God for the protection of man. Somewhere his heart began to struggle. And God confronted him, because how many know the Lord confronts, he chastens, he spanks those in whom he loves. And he sends him this prophet named Hananiah. And the prophet goes to Asa and he reminds him about God's powerful protection in the past. It's a great story. You should go read this. I love it because, there is a reason for a rear view mirror in a car. There's a reason that you have mirrors that look back. But there's a reason that those mirrors are smaller than the windshield. Because if you spend too much time looking back, you'll miss what's going on in front of you. And that ain't real good. But it's necessary that we sometimes have a flashback, a look back into the past, because it's where we're reminded of the faithfulness of God. When we sang that song this morning, I trust in God, it's because he has always been faithful. Even when I was not faithful, even when I've gotten disappointed before, and then he reminds me that he had nothing to do with that. That was my choice. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember that now. We spend so, and so he comes and he gives him this little flashback to the protection that God has had and how God had always been faithful. And he just tries to remind him that you can trust God. He's come by to be an encourager, and God just confronts him and says, listen, why are you trading the things of God and the protection of God for the protection of man? Do you think that man can be a better protector than God? And it's funny because we often know better. We go, well, no, I don't think man's a better protector than God. Yet we invest in things of our own power and our own might to secure ourselves because we feel more secure when we're in control. And he comes and he gives him this little look and tells him, God is doing this. But listen, God tells him, because of your rejection of me, because of your failure to acknowledge me as your protector and doing what I've asked you to do, he said, you're going to have judgment and peace will end. What you thought was peace, what you thought was going to be okay because you got it all figured out and you've done everything on your own power, what you're going to find is you're about to bring destruction and peace will end. And that's why we read this verse that says, for the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. But he told the king, you have done a foolish thing. And from now on, you will be at war. And you know what Asa did? He didn't repent. He didn't say, oh God, forgive me, like a David would have. He got mad. And he got bowed up and proud. And kind of had this attitude of, who does God think he is? I've got this figured out. Good job. And you know what happened to him? Not only did he lock up that Hananiah, he locked him up and he began to be angry and frustrated and all those things, but what ends up happening to Asa is he dies from an unnamed disease. A terrible, painful death. And what God said would happen, happened. They stayed at war. They stayed no peace whatsoever in their land, all because a man chose not to trust God. So we read this scripture this morning that says, for the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. And so if I was going to subtitle this last part 3, I would ask you a question rather than make a statement. Who's holding your heart? Who's holding your heart today? Because it matters so much as to our response to God. Who's holding on to your heart? Who have you allowed to be responsible for your heart? Because what happens is often we trade God for other things, just like this king had. Oh, y'all don't want me to preach this morning. We trade God for things that seem comfortable, for things that seem more permanent, for things that seem like they will provide. We begin to rely on ourselves. We become God for ourselves, and we begin to trust in the things that we see around us rather than the things that we cannot see, which is God. We begin to rely on things. We try to set things up and orchestrate things for ourselves. Can I tell you that I'm not a good orchestrator? I wouldn't be a very good conductor for an orchestra. It just wouldn't work. They'd be all over the place. Because I'm not good at it. I fail, I mess up, and I struggle just to get things going in the morning when I'm trying to get myself going. Like, what should I do first? Should I do that? Should I do this? And eventually, I find my way to something. And just go, I got to start somewhere. I'm not good at it. But even if you are good at it, you will never be one who can orchestrate like God. God can put things together that I could have never imagined. He works things out, and I'm like, oh, look at you just show up like that. What? God, you've been working on that for like months for that to even happen. And I'm like, how could that even happen? Because he knows what he's doing. He has a plan for Devin's life. He has a plan for your life. And when we let him orchestrate so good, yet why can we not just trust him? Because often we let other things begin to take hold of our heart. For Asa, it was fear. He struggled with this fear of, what are we going to do? They're going to attack us. They're going to get us. The bad guys are out there. They've been out there the whole time. And God had never failed to protect them. And yet, for some reason, he allowed fear to creep into his heart. And sometimes we do the same thing. Well, what's going to happen in this world? What's going? Oh, God, the tariffs and this thing. Now, I've heard all of it till I'm just through. I'm sick of it. You know what? If prices tripled right now, God will still provide. Because I could walk outside tomorrow, and if I needed manna, you know what he would do? He'll provide it. Well, but Pastor, what is it? It's manna. I don't know. It's what they called it. What is it? It's manna. He'll provide whatever it is when I need it, and he has over and over again. I can't tell you the times in my life that I've gone, God, I don't even know what I need right now, and somehow he still shows up with it. And he provides. People say, well, what are we going to do if this happens? I'm going to trust him. Well, you need to be doing this. And listen, I know God gives us wisdom. Certainly, God gives us wisdom to be able to do some things that we need to do to help provide for our families and stuff. But man, some people take it to the extreme. I love it. My dad, people all my life, I'd hear people say, well, Brother Taylor, what are you doing for retirement? He said, I'm trusting the Lord. You know why? Because he never had the opportunity to invest into retirement. Pastoring such a lucrative career. And he had dedicated his life to serving the Lord. But you know what? When he was 19 years old, he got drafted. And he didn't understand it then. And I still don't understand that war now. But can I tell you something? Just because God can, he provided for him through Vietnam. And you know what? When it came time for Dad and Mom to retire, they bought a house. They had plenty of money to live and still have plenty of money to live and exist. Why? Because he chose to say, God, I'm not going to trust in my riches or the riches of this world. It's not because he didn't want to put up. If he'd had it, he'd have used some wisdom and done it, and God would have used it. Listen, the government doesn't provide your check. If you're living on a fixed income, stop worrying about it. Everybody's always threatening this thing. God provides for you. When we choose to see him as provider, we don't let fear begin to rule our hearts. But that's not the only thing that happens. We let other things begin to happen. we're trying to find happiness, or we're trying to do this or do that, and we begin to let things control our lives because we've put our heart in the wrong place. We're letting the wrong people or things hold on to our heart. But God says, I'm looking through all the earth for those whose hearts are fully committed to me. He said, I want to strengthen the hearts. And I don't know about you, but I can't do it on my own. I ain't got enough strength. Somebody the other day said, I hear this a lot too. They're like, I don't know how you do what you do and go like you do, because I'm not running on my own strength or my own power. I'm leaning on Him. In my weakness, His strength is made perfect. And He's looking to strengthen those whose hearts are put upon Him. So God, help me to make sure my heart is fully upon you. Help me to make sure that I'm making sure I'm of a pure heart at all times. When I pray like David, create in me a clean heart, God. Wipe away the sins and the iniquities of my past. And God, help me to walk in righteousness before you. Because He desires our heart to be for Him. Why not give it to the one who created it? Why not let Him be the one who's in charge of taking care of it? Can I trust Him? Absolutely. We wonder why we get our hearts broken so often. It's probably because you've not let the right person care for it. So He won't break your heart. So if your heart gets broken, it's because you put it somewhere it didn't belong. And we struggle and we get frustrated with people. And God's going, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. You get angry with them. You get mad at this situation, that situation. You say, God, I don't understand how this and that. And He's going, it's not their fault. It's yours. Because you haven't given me your heart. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says, above all else, guard your heart. For everything you do, everything that you do, everything that you are flows from your heart. Can I tell you, I didn't recognize just how valuable my earthly, fleshly heart was. We just know as long as it's beating, we're good, right? But I didn't realize that my heart beating and that blood that's being pushed out through all your limbs and all those things, and then supposed to come back to your body again, all those things, I didn't realize how much that had to do with other things, not just making sure I had blood flow to my brain so I could think. Some people have less blood flow sometimes to their brain. I'm like, you need to start exercising and work that out a little more. Until I had a back surgery that damaged some nerves that allowed that blood to go down my leg and come back up. And that damaged my lymph system. And so now I have what's called edema, where fluid gets trapped because it can't get back up and it can't circulate on one side of my body. I went to the doctor, says, because I'm fat? And he said, no, if it was just that, it'd be both your legs. It might be diabetes or something like that, because that can cause that. Being overweight can cause that. He said, but it's because that side that was numb for so long, when they went back in and they done it, he said there was already nerve damage that couldn't be undone. I said, well, for man it may not could be undone, but I trust the God who can do it. And He ain't done it yet, but that's okay. I just keep dealing with it. I do what I have to do. I take care of it. But I also realized that I got a real bad injury. And for 5 months, that injury don't want to heal. You realize that my heart, the outflow from my heart, is in connection with healing in my body? And just like my earthly heart, everything that flows out of it matters. In the same way, our heart, spiritually, everything that you do flows from that place. And I wonder sometimes when I see people and the things that are going on and the negativity and the constant frustrations and things that are going on in their world, why is it that that's happening? It's probably not just related to circumstances. It's probably not just related to situations. It's related to a heart problem. And that's why he says, guard your heart. Protect your heart, because everything you do flows from it, and it matters where your heart is. So don't just give your heart to anyone and everything. So many people, they're looking for someone else to guard their heart. Can I tell you, it's not Ashley's job to guard my heart. A lot of times we ask our spouse to guard our hearts. Will you guard my heart? Will you do? Listen, that's not what he said. He said, guard your heart. Guard your hearts. Because the enemy wants to destroy us. And if we start putting it in the wrong place, in the wrong hands, you're going to end up with a broken heart, and you're going to blame God and say, what gives, God? How come this relationship didn't work out? I thought it was from you. And he's going to go, I didn't have anything to do with that. The relationship was for me, but you started putting your heart into other people's hands and trusting them instead of trusting me. I'm sorry, I know some of this is hard this morning, but it's necessary that we hear it. I just read a story of a pastor. He just posted this in one of our private Facebook groups, and so I won't mention his name. I won't share a whole lot on that side of the world, but his story really, really just kind of grieved my heart, and I prayed because I know he's in good place and everything. He was just sharing a testimony, but I felt like it was such a great thing for us to understand. Listen, he had left a church that he was pastoring, and they were going to go work jobs and just do something a little bit different, and they were going to serve in some other churches but work an outside job. And you know what happened? Somebody called him and said, hey, we need a pastor at a church over here in another state. So he and his wife and their beautiful children upped and moved to this new state, this new place, and took on a little church that didn't have very many people, needed lots of renovations, things done, and started working. And wow, what God was doing. And one day he come along, this guy that he was working an outside job with, and he would go and support him and ride the bus with this guy who was driving the bus and be an aid for him. And he started talking to him about the Lord, and the guy got saved. And wow, how incredible that was. It was life-changing. And he started coming to church faithfully and becoming a member and participating. And then they realized that he had some things. He didn't have anybody. He was alone. All these, so they started bringing him into to their home and feeding him, and their children loved him, and all these different things. And then one day he comes up and he says, Pastor, I think I found somebody very special. He says, oh, really, man? That's so exciting. He said, who is it? He said, it's your wife. And that day they both left, that man and his wife. And I can't imagine how hard that must have been. And in most places, people would encourage, say, oh, you just need to step away from the ministry. Left him and his wife, and you just need to go take some time for yourself. You need to go heal. You need to go do these things. But you know what? He stayed there. He kept doing what God called him to do. And I'm sure it was hard. I by no means think that was an easy thing, but God continued to bless him. God continued to protect him. God continued to carry him and his children. He was able to supply for them and keep them and do all the things that he needed to do. And their church is booming, and God's doing great things. Why? Because it could have devastated him if he'd have let the wrong person hold his heart. But it didn't. So, I mean, I'm sure it was hard. I'm sure there was anger. I'm sure there was frustrations and things like that. But as long as God is the one who your heart is in, you can continue forward. You can make it through because he is the one who's holding your heart. Guard your heart with everything. In your marriage, don't expect somebody else to guard your heart for you. You guard your heart. And when you're guarding your heart, it in turn guards them, because we're standing on guard for one another. In Matthew chapter 6 that we read this morning, It says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. He goes on to talk about the eye being the lamp of the body, and that when it's healthy, that our body is full of light. But when they stop being healthy, our eyes stop being healthy, that we become full of darkness. And just like Asa this morning, somewhere something stopped happening in his life, and spiritually he became unhealthy. Emotionally he became unstable. And when he started depending upon himself and the things of this world instead of depending on God, he moved into a place that God never intended for him to be. And we're not to store up treasures in this world. And so many times we're working so hard to be successful by man's standards, so that we don't have to need anybody to provide for us. I always need God to provide for me. Listen, I'm not saying not to be smart. I'm not saying to put stuff up. But if that becomes what it's about, when those things, listen, where your treasure is, your heart is, where your treasure is, your heart is also. I can tell you where your heart is this morning by looking at where you're investing. Where do you spend your time and your money? Uh-oh. Where is your time and your money spent? Because maybe at one time it was for God. It was for the kingdom. It was to be doing the things of God, and I had a heart for God, and I just was on fire for Him. And God, anything that I can do, I'm here for you. I want to do it. I want to do this. But over time, if we're not careful, we begin to allow those things to creep in, and they'll destroy marriages. They'll destroy families. They'll destroy relationship with Christ. Because we allow stuff to begin to be more important than Him. They become idols. Where is my time invested? Where is my money invested? What am I spending all my time trying to do and this and that? Is it of the things of God? Is it acknowledging God and what He wants me? Or do I get up and just go do the things that I know I got to do? And I just go, listen, we're to acknowledge God in everything. When I get up in the morning, not because I'm a pastor. It wouldn't matter if I was a pastor or a janitor. When I get up in the morning, no matter what place He has me in, I get up and I think, God, I'm going to serve You today. And there's going to be people that I'm going to encounter that You've called me to serve today, that You've ordered our steps. I may think it's just a norm. I'm going to walk in, see everybody I always see. But it's always an opportunity for me to be an ambassador for the kingdom. So I refuse to just see things as normal. I'm here to serve You and to do what You want me to do. And so I'm going to invest my time and my resources, the things that God's blessed me with, to be a blessing back to Him. Wonder, at what point do we get to just say, I don't need to do those things anymore? And when we start having those thoughts and those mindsets creep in, it's often because somewhere our heart has gotten placed in other places. Because let me tell you, when your heart's with Him and it's passionate, let me tell you, when I got married to Ashley, she's all I thought about. I'd be at work thinking about her. I was joyed to be at work and doing what I'm doing, like, ooh, I'm going to get done with this and I'm going to go home and I'm going to see my wife. Because I was passionate about her. She was my love, and I loved her more than anything else of this world. But if we're not careful, we let that go. And we start just trying to muddle through and do and this and that and that and that. I mean, just over and over again, that becomes life. But But God's asking us this morning, where is your treasure? Who's holding your heart? Who has your heart this morning? What has your heart this morning? What is it that you've given permission for that maybe you shouldn't have given permission to? What do you need to take back today so that it can truly be God who has your heart? Listen, I'm not beating you over the head this morning. Please don't think that. That's not God. If somebody beats you over the head like that, that's not God. Certainly he chastens those he loves, but there's never been once that I've chastened my children and it been out of anger and those things. It's been out of a place of love, wanting to help them. And I believe that's God this morning. He's looking at some of us today and he's going, listen, you've allowed your heart to be pulled by other things. You've placed them into some other things today, and I'm just asking that you come and you surrender that to me. And so, yes, this altar's open. There's people coming to the altars this morning. I invite you right now. And I would encourage you that where you're sitting right now, that you would just begin to bow your head and go, God, is there any place in my heart? And if God begins to reveal to you something right now, if you ask him, he will, and you'll begin to think right about that thing, because that's who he is. And if he reveals that to you, don't just sit there, but respond to his word today and come and find a place and get back down on your knees and say, God, forgive me for letting anything else have a place or take hold of my heart that doesn't belong there. So would you just pray this morning right where you're at and say, God, search my heart. God, we lift our hearts to you today. God, this is not something that we just do, that we come and we go to church, we come home. But God, you've come to speak to us directly today. And I believe there are people here today who you're calling to them and saying, listen, stop letting your heart be broken over and over again. Stop feeling the way you're feeling. Let me take charge of your heart. Stop being afraid of everything else that's going on around you. Stop worrying about all this stuff and just let me hold on to it. Let go of the anger that you've let rule your heart, that because of other things and other situations and people that you blame for things that you allowed to happen, that you gave your heart to. Stop letting those things continue to be a cycle in my life. And God, we surrender that to you today. So if that's you, come and pray this morning. Father, I just pray right now that every heart would be searched today by the Holy Spirit. God, you alone know the intent of the heart. And God, you see us this morning, you know us. And God, I pray that you don't let us just walk out of here the same. But that God, you would do something significant today. That God, we would surrender fully and completely to you today. And Father, I pray that you would help us. God, not that we just sit back and we say, God, would you guard my heart? But God, that you've called us to guard our hearts above all else, because the outflow matters. Father, help us to love you. Help us to be passionate about you more than we are anything else in life. And Father, cover us today with your presence, to know that we can fully trust you. I'm going to ask this today. But if you're here today and you say, you know what, I don't know where my heart sits. I know there are those who are here praying today, and I'm so thankful for what God's doing right now, but I just feel in this moment that I need to put this out there and give you the opportunity today. But if you're here and you go, Pastor, I don't know where my heart sits. Maybe you don't have a relationship with God. Maybe you have not given your heart to Him. And I don't say things to scare people. That's not me. I don't play with people's emotions. But I'm just saying, we're not promised tomorrow. I'm not promised my next heartbeat. And I don't know when Jesus is going to come back. I don't know when all those things are going to happen. But what I do know is that I don't want to find myself somewhere I don't want to be. And I want to make sure my life is where it's supposed to be with Him and that my heart is pure before Him. So if you're here today and you say, you know what, Pastor, I don't know that my heart's pure before Him. I don't know that my relationship with Him is where it's supposed to be. You could come down here this morning. I would love to personally pray with you today.